The stars looked peaceful through the bridge window of the cargo ship Baekdu. Captain Han Tae-sung sat in his chair, watching the empty space ahead. His ship carried medical supplies and equipment for the new colonies on the outer rim. It was a simple job. Boring even. That was how he liked it. "Captain, I'm picking up something on the sensors," Park Ji-woo said from the navigation station. The young officer leaned forward, studying his screen with a frown. 6 ships approaching fast from the asteroid field. Han's relaxed posture changed immediately. He sat up straight, his jaw tightening. "What kind of ships?" "Unknown configuration. Wait." Ji-woo's fingers moved quickly across his controls. "Captain, they match the description of Vraxil raider vessels." A heavy silence filled the bridge. Everyone knew about the Vraxil. They were pirates who roamed the outer territories, attacking ships and colonies. They took what they wanted and enslaved anyone who survived. "Sound the alarm," Han said quietly. "Get everyone to their stations. And someone wake up Choi from engineering. Tell her we need full power to all systems." The alarm echoed through the corridors of the Baekdu. Within minutes, Chief Engineer Choi Da-eun appeared on the bridge, still pulling her uniform jacket on. She was a tough woman with oil stains on her hands and a no-nonsense attitude. "What's happening?" she asked. "Vraxil," Han said simply. Choi's expression hardened. She understood immediately. "I'll get the engines ready for emergency burns." "Do that," Han said. "But also prepare Protocol Taguk 7. Choi's eyes widened slightly. Then she nodded and hurried back to engineering. The young communications officer Yoon Kwan looked confused. "Sir, what's Protocol Taguk 7? He asked. "You'll see," Han replied. He turned to Ji-woo. "How long until they reach us?" 8 minutes at current speed." Han nodded. 8 minutes. He had been through worse. Much worse. But that was years ago, during the colony wars. He had left that life behind. Or so he thought. The 6 alien ships appeared on the view screen. They were sleek and dangerous-looking, painted in dark colors with sharp edges. They moved like hunting animals circling prey. A message crackled over the communications system. The voice was harsh and mechanical, speaking through a translator. "Human vessel, this is Warlord Thexmal of the Vraxil fleet. You are surrounded. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Surrender your cargo and your crew will become property of the Vraxil Empire. Resist and you will be destroyed. You have 30 minutes to comply." The channel closed. Yoon Kwan looked at the captain, his face pale. "Sir, what do we do?" Han stood up from his chair and walked to the view screen. He studied the 6 ships carefully, noting their positions and formations. They thought they had an easy target, a simple cargo ship with no escort. They probably believed the crew would panic and surrender. "Open a channel to the entire ship," Han said. Yoon pressed a button. "Channel open, sir." "All crew, this is the captain." Han spoke calmly. "You all know what's out there. You all know what the Vraxil do to their prisoners. I'm not going to let that happen to any of you. We've drilled for this situation. Move to your defensive positions. Stay calm and follow your training. We're not helpless merchants. Remember who we are?" He nodded to Yoon to close the channel. Ji-woo was staring at him. "Captain, with respect, we're one cargo ship against 6 warships. What can we possibly do?" Han allowed himself a small smile. "Ji-woo, how long have you been on my crew?" 4 months, sir." "Then there are things you don't know about this ship yet. Things you don't know about me." Han turned to Choi on the intercom. "Chief, status report." Choi's voice came back and she sounded almost cheerful. "Hidden panels are retracting now, Captain. Weapon systems are coming online. Power distribution is optimized. We're running hot but steady. The old girl is ready for a fight." Ji-woo's mouth fell open. "Weapons? This ship has weapons?" "This ship has a lot of things that aren't in the standard cargo vessel design," Han said. He walked back to his chair and sat down. "I used to command a destroyer during the war. When I retired, I took this job. But I made some modifications to the Baekdu." "Some expensive modifications. The company knows about this?" Ji-woo asked. "The company paid for half of it," Han replied. "After the Vraxil started raiding our colonies, the company decided that all our frontier ships needed to be able to defend themselves. This ship looks like a fat, slow cargo hauler from the outside, but underneath she's got reinforced armor plating, military-grade shields, and enough firepower to make any pirate regret their life choices." On the view screen, the Vraxil ships were moving into attack positions. They were spreading out, preparing to disable the Baekdu's engines with precision strikes. Standard pirate tactics. Take out the engines first, then board at leisure. Han watched them move. They were confident. Too confident. 15 minutes until their deadline, Yoon reported, his voice shaking slightly. Good, Han said. That gives us time. Time for what, sir? Han didn't answer. Instead, he pulled up a tactical display on his command chair. He studied the positions of the enemy ships, calculating angles and distances. Old instincts were coming back. The calm focus of combat, the ability to see 3 moves ahead. Jiwoo, I need you to calculate a rotation maneuver, Han said. When I give the signal, I want this ship to spin 180 degrees on her central axis. Fast as she can manage. Sir, a ship this size can't rotate that quickly without tearing herself apart. She can if the inertial dampeners are properly calibrated. Choi knows how to do it. Work with her. Jiwoo swallowed hard and began working on his console. Han could see the young officer's hands shaking slightly. Fear was natural. Han had been afraid his first time in combat too, but fear could be controlled. Fear could be used. The minutes ticked by slowly. The Vraxil ships continued their approach, weapons charging. They were taking their time, enjoying the moment. They thought the humans were sitting there terrified, waiting for the inevitable. 10 minutes, Yoon said quietly. Han keyed the intercom to engineering. Choi, are we ready? As ready as we'll ever be, Captain. Just say the word. 5 minutes, Yoon said. The Vraxil broadcast another message. Human ship, your time is running out. Surrender now or face destruction. Han ignored them. He was watching his tactical display. Watching the way the enemy ships were positioned. They had made a mistake. They were too close together, too confident. They weren't expecting any resistance. 2 minutes, Yoon said. Cut all external communications, Han ordered. I don't want to hear their voice anymore. Yoon pressed a button. The bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. 1 minute, Yoon whispered. Han's hand hovered over the command console. He felt calm, focused. This was familiar territory even after all these years. He looked at his crew. Jiwoo was nervous but ready. Yoon was scared but at his post. Through the intercom he could hear Choi barking orders to her engineering team. 30 seconds, Yoon said. The Vraxil ships moved closer. Weapons locked onto the Baekdu's engines. 15 seconds. Han took a deep breath. 10 seconds. His finger touched the button. 5 seconds. Now, Han said quietly. Everything happened at once. The cargo bay doors suddenly opened, revealing hidden weapons that shouldn't exist on a civilian ship. The Baekdu rotated with impossible speed for a vessel her size, bringing her weapons to bear on the surprised Vraxil fleet, and somewhere deep in the ship's systems, a silent signal transmitted on a frequency the Vraxil couldn't detect, a signal that had been sent the moment the pirates first appeared on sensors, a signal calling for help. The Vraxil had given them 30 minutes. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. It was exactly the amount of time humanity needed. Warlord Thexmal sat on his command throne aboard his flagship, watching the human cargo ship on his display screen. He felt bored. This was his 203rd raid, and they were all starting to feel the same. The prey always reacted the same way. Fear, then panic, then surrender. The human ship has not responded to our demands, his tactical officer reported. Thexmal waved a clawed hand dismissively. They are frozen with fear. It is natural. Fire a warning shot across their bow. Show them we are serious. The tactical officer hesitated. Warlord, the ship has not moved or tried to flee. This is unusual behavior. Unusual? Thexmal laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. They are simply stupid. These humans are new to space travel. They do not understand how things work in the real galaxy. Fire the warning shot. A bright beam of energy lanced out from the flagship, passing just above the human vessel. It was close enough to rock their shields but not cause damage. A warning. A threat. The human ship still did not move. Perhaps their communications are damaged, the tactical officer suggested. Thexmal frowned. That was possible. But something felt wrong. In all his raids, he had never seen a ship just sit there like this. Usually they ran. Or they begged. Or they tried to fight with whatever pathetic weapons they had. Scan the ship again, he ordered. Full spectrum analysis. The tactical officer worked at his console. It appears to be a standard cargo vessel. No significant weapons detected. Shields are minimal. One lifeform reading shows approximately 30 humans aboard. 30 humans. That would bring a good price on the slave markets. The cargo would be worth something too. It was a profitable raid with minimal risk. Move into attack position, Thexmal ordered. Target their engines. Disable them so they cannot run. Then we board and take what we want. The 6 Vraxel ships spread out in a practice formation. They had done this many times before. 2 ships would hit the engines from different angles. The other 4 would surround the prey and prevent escape. Fire, Thexmal commanded. Energy beams struck the human ship's engines. Thexmal expected to see explosions, to see the ship go dark and helpless. Instead, the beams scattered against some kind of reinforced plating. The ship's shields flared bright but held. And then something impossible happened. The cargo bay doors opened. For a moment, Thexmal thought the humans were dumping their cargo, trying to buy their freedom. It would not work. He would take the cargo and the crew anyway, but no cargo came out. Instead, he saw weapons. Large weapons. Military-grade railguns that had been hidden inside the cargo bay. Weapons that should not exist on a civilian vessel. What? He began to say. The human ship rotated. It moved with speed and grace that no cargo vessel should possess. In seconds, it had turned to face the Vraxel fleet directly, its hidden weapons now pointing at them. Evasive maneuvers. Thexmal shouted. Too late. The railguns fired. Solid projectiles moving at incredible speed slammed into 2 of his ships. The first ship's shields collapsed immediately. The projectile tore through its hull like paper, causing massive internal damage. The second ship managed to dodge partially but still took a glancing hit that destroyed its main engine. Return fire. All ships, return fire, Thexmal screamed. His fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams and missiles streaked toward the human ship. But the cargo vessel's shields were much stronger than the scans had indicated. They held against the first barrage. Warlord, that ship has military-grade defenses, the tactical officer reported, his voice filled with fear. Our intelligence was wrong. That is not a simple cargo vessel. Thexmal's mind raced. How could their intelligence be wrong? They had raided human settlements before. They had captured human ships. The humans were traders, colonists, explorers. They were not warriors. But the ship fighting back at him now was definitely a warship hidden in a trader's body. Analysis, Thexmal demanded. How did we not detect those weapons? They were shielded somehow, disguised to look like normal cargo containers on our scans. Warlord, this was a trap. A trap? No, that was impossible. The Vraxel had chosen this target at random. There was no way the humans could have known they would attack, unless... Check for transmissions from that ship, Thexmal ordered. Any signals we might have missed. The communications officer worked frantically. Warlord, I detect a tight beam transmission that was sent when we first appeared on their sensors. It was highly compressed and used an encryption we do not recognize. Where was it sent? I cannot determine the destination, but... The officer paused. It was a distress signal. They called for help. Thexmal felt cold fear creep into his chest. The humans had called for help immediately, before even hearing the Vraxel demands. That meant they knew what was coming. That meant they were prepared. How long ago was the signal sent? He asked quietly. 28 minutes, Warlord. 28 minutes. Almost the entire time limit he had given them to surrender. They had used his own arrogance against him. They had bought time for their reinforcements to arrive. Long-range sensors scan for approaching ships, Thexmal ordered. Now, the sensor officer's face went pale. Warlord, I detect one large vessel approaching at high speed. It will arrive in approximately 2 minutes. One ship? Thexmal felt some relief. We can handle one ship. Continue the attack on the cargo vessel. Destroy it before their reinforcement arrives. But even as he gave the order, doubt gnawed at him. The humans had surprised him once. What else had they planned? The battle continued. The human cargo ship proved to be much harder to hit than expected. It moved like a fighter, dodging and weaving through space. Its captain was skilled, anticipating their attacks and positioning the ship to minimize damage. One of Thexmal's damaged ships exploded as its reactor went critical. Another was dead in space, leaking atmosphere, and still the cargo ship fought, its railguns firing with precision that spoke of military training. The reinforcement ship is arriving, the sensor officer announced. Thexmal looked at his main display. A large vessel dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the battlefield. It was a human cruiser, bristling with weapons. But it was just one ship against his remaining 4 vessels. All ships, new target, Thexmal commanded. Focus fire on the cruiser. We can still win this. But the human cruiser did not charge into battle. Instead, it held position at the edge of weapons range and opened a communication channel. A human female appeared on Thexmal's screen. She wore a military uniform and had cold, calculating eyes. When she spoke, her words were translated, but her tone needed no translation. It was the voice of someone who had seen combat and was not impressed by what she saw. Vraxel vessels, this is Captain No Sunmi of the human cruiser Chungmu. You have attacked a civilian vessel under the protection of the human colonial fleet. You have one opportunity to withdraw. Power down your weapons and retreat immediately. If you refuse, we will destroy you, Vexmol laughed. 1 ship against 4? Your mathematics are poor, human. You should be the one surrendering. Captain No's expression did not change. I gave you a chance. You chose death. The channel closed. Arrogant prey. Vexmol growled. Show them the price of their pride. All ships attack formation Delta. We overwhelmed them with numbers. His fleet moved forward, but something was wrong. The human cruiser was not moving. It just sat there almost like the cargo ship had done at the start of the battle, and then Thexamol understood. Just like the cargo ship, the cruiser was waiting for something. Warlord, multiple new contacts, the sensor officer cried out. Ships are dropping out of faster-than-light travel all around us. I count 3 more cruisers, 8 destroyers, and 2 large vessels that match the profile of human carriers. Thexmal stared at the display in horror. The single cruiser had not been the reinforcement. It had been the scout. The real fleet had been right behind it. We are surrounded, the tactical officer said unnecessarily. Thexmal's mind raced. He could try to fight. But against those numbers, with 2 of his ships already damaged or destroyed, it would be suicide. He could try to run. But human ships were fast and his damaged vessels would not escape. He had one option left. Open a channel to the human fleet, he said quietly. We surrender. The tactical officer looked shocked. Warlord, our honor means nothing if we are dead, Thexmal snapped. Open the channel. Captain No's face appeared again on the screen. Yes, we surrender, Thexmal forced the words out. We will power down our weapons and accept your terms. Captain No smiled. It was not a kind smile. No, what? I said you had one chance to withdraw. You chose to attack. Now you face the consequences, but we surrendered, Thexmal protested. You surrendered too late, Captain No said coldly. You attacked a civilian vessel. You threatened to enslave its crew. You fired on a military cruiser. The time for surrender has passed. Thexmal felt true fear for the first time in his long career. Please, we were wrong. We made a mistake. Yes, you did, Captain No agreed. And now you will pay for it. But I am not without mercy. I will allow one of your ships to leave. Your flagship. You will return to your people and deliver a message for me. What message? Thexmal asked, though part of him did not want to know. You will watch as we destroy the rest of your fleet. Then you will go home and tell your people exactly what happened here. The bridge of the cargo ship Baekdu was filled with smoke and the smell of burned electronics. Captain Han Tae-sung watched through his cracked viewscreen as the human fleet surrounded the remaining Vraxil vessels. His ship had taken damage, but they were alive. All of them. Chief, damage report, he said into the intercom. Choi Da-eun's voice came back, slightly out of breath. We've got hull breaches on decks 2 and 3. Nothing critical. Shields are at 15%. The portside railgun is destroyed, but the starboard one is still functional. We can still fight if needed. That won't be necessary, Han said. He looked at Park Ji-woo, who was still staring wide-eyed at the display showing the human fleet. Ji-woo, you did well. Your calculations saved us. The young officer swallowed hard. Captain, I thought we were going to die. So did I, Han admitted. But we held out long enough. On the main display, Captain No's cruiser moved closer to the Baekdu. A communication channel opened. Captain Han, this is Captain No. Are you and your crew injured? Some minor wounds, nothing serious. The ship took some hits, but we're functional. Good, No said. You did excellent work holding them off. Your distress signal reached us while we were already in the sector conducting training exercises. We were able to respond faster than normal. Han nodded. Lucky timing. Perhaps, No said, though her tone suggested she didn't believe in luck. Stay in position. Medical teams will come aboard to check your crew. We'll also send repair technicians to help with your damage. Appreciated, Captain. The channel closed. Han leaned back in his chair, suddenly feeling very tired. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving him exhausted. He had not been in a real fight in over a decade. His hands were shaking slightly. Captain Yun Quan spoke up from the communication station. "I'm receiving a transmission from one of the human carriers. They're launching something. Small craft." Han pulled up the sensor display. Dozens of small objects were separating from the carrier ships. As they got closer, he could identify them. Breaching pods, military insertion craft designed to attach to enemy ships and cut through their hulls. "They're boarding the Vraxel vessels," Jiwoo said quietly. Han watched as the pods streaked toward the alien ships. The Vraxel tried to shoot them down, but the human destroyers provided covering fire. One by one, the pods attached to the enemy hulls and began cutting through. "Why board them?" Yoon asked. "Why not just destroy the ships from a distance?" "Information," Han answered. "They want intelligence. Navigation data, communication records, anything that might tell us more about the Vraxel, where they came from, where their bases are, how many ships they have. Is that legal?" Yoon asked. "I mean, capturing enemy vessels during peacetime?" "They stopped being peacetime vessels when they attacked us," Choi said over the intercom. She had come up to the bridge, her uniform torn and dirty. "The Vraxel declared war the moment they fired their weapons. The human fleet is just responding appropriately." Through the view screen, Han could see flashes of light inside the Vraxel ships. Weapons fire. The boarding action was meeting resistance. Captain No's voice came over the fleet-wide channel. "All vessels maintain positions. Boarding teams, you are weapons free. Secure the enemy ships by any means necessary." The battle inside the Vraxel vessels was brutal and quick. Han had commanded boarding actions during the colony wars. He knew how they worked. Small corridors, close quarters combat, enemies around every corner. It was the most dangerous kind of fighting. "I'm picking up Vraxel communication chatter," Yoon reported. "They're panicking. They're talking about, they're calling our Marines demons." "Demons," Jiwoo repeated. "The Vraxel have never fought humans in close combat before," Han explained. "They don't know what to expect. They probably think their superior size and strength will give them an advantage. Won't it?" Yoon asked. Han shook his head. "Humans don't win fights through strength. We win through adaptability and sheer stubbornness. We learn fast. We improvise, and we never give up." As if to prove his point, one of the Vraxel ships went dark. Its lights flickered and died. The boarding team had secured it. "First ship captured," Choi observed. That was fast. Minutes passed. 2 more Vraxel vessels went dark. Then the 4th. The boarding teams were incredibly efficient. Han noticed something on the sensor display. "Jiwoo, what's that contact at the edge of our range?" The navigation officer checked his screens. Long-range sensors show multiple vessels approaching. Large vessels. Definitely military grade. And they're Vraxel. Han felt ice in his stomach. "How many?" "At least 20. Maybe more. They're still too far out for accurate count." This changed everything. The human fleet had overwhelming superiority against 6 raiders. But against 20 or more warships, the odds were much different. Han opened a channel to Captain No. "Captain, are you seeing what we're seeing on long-range sensors?" "We are," No replied calmly. "It appears the Vraxel called for reinforcements before we jammed their communications. What's the plan?" There was a pause. When No spoke again, her voice was harder. "The plan is to send a message that will be remembered." On the fleet channel, a new voice spoke. It was deeper, older, carrying absolute authority. "All vessels, this is Admiral Kwon J. Hyuk. I'm assuming tactical command. All ships prepare for combat operations. Admiral Kwon." Even Han, who had been retired for years, knew that name. Kwon was a legend. He had commanded the defense of the outer colonies during the worst of the wars. He was brilliant, ruthless, and had never lost a battle. If Kwon was here, this situation was about to get much more serious. "Captain Han," Admiral Kwon's voice addressed him directly. "You and your crew have performed admirably. However, we are about to engage in fleet combat. I strongly suggest you withdraw to a safe distance." "Understood, Admiral. We'll move out of the combat zone." "Before you go," Kwon said, "I want you to know something. What happened to you today will never happen again. The Vraxel will learn to fear human space. I will make certain of that." The channel closed. Choi looked at Han with concern. "Captain, what does he mean?" Han thought about the tone in the Admiral's voice. The absolute certainty. The cold promise of violence. "He means he's going to make an example," Han said quietly. A very permanent example. The Baekdu slowly moved away from the battle zone, its damaged engines straining. As they retreated, Han watched the human fleet reorganize into a combat formation. The carriers moved to the rear. The cruisers formed the center line. The destroyers spread out in a screening pattern. It was a classic formation, one designed not for defense but for overwhelming offense. The Vraxil reinforcement fleet arrived. Han counted 23 ships, all larger than the raiders that had attacked him. These were real warships, not just pirate vessels, but Admiral Kwan did not seem concerned. Vraxil fleet, this is Admiral Kwan Jae-hyuk of the Human Colonial Defense Force. You are in violation of human territorial space. You have attacked civilian vessels. You have threatened to enslave human citizens. These are acts of war. A Vraxil voice responded, harsh and angry. You have captured our ships. You have killed our warriors. Release them immediately or we will destroy you. No, Admiral Kwan said simply. Instead, I offer you one chance. Turn around and leave. Never return to human space. Spread the word to all Vraxil that humanity is off limits. The Vraxil commander laughed. You are outnumbered. You will surrender or die. Admiral Kwan sighed. I gave you a chance. Remember that. What happened next was the most coordinated military action Han had ever witnessed. The human fleet moved as one perfect machine. Fighters launched from the carriers in precise formations. Destroyers accelerated forward, their weapons already firing. The cruisers unleashed devastating broadsides of missiles and energy beams. The Vraxil fleet tried to respond, but they were too slow. They were not used to fighting an enemy that had practiced fleet tactics for centuries against themselves. Humanity had fought more wars in its short history than most species experienced in a millennium. 3 Vraxil ships exploded in the first 30 seconds. 5 more took critical damage. They're not just fighting, Choi said in awe. They're hunting. She was right. The human fleet was not simply trying to win. They were systematically destroying every Vraxil vessel with cold efficiency. Fighters swarmed damaged ships targeting their weakest points. Destroyers worked in pairs, one drawing fire while the other flanked. The cruisers picked off targets with precision strikes. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The Vraxil fleet broke formation. They tried to retreat, but the human destroyers had already moved to cut off their escape routes. They were trapped. They're trying to surrender, Yoon reported, listening to the communication channels. Multiple Vraxil ships are broadcasting surrender. Are we accepting? Jiwoo asked. Han watched as another Vraxil ship exploded. No, we're not, but they surrendered. They attacked a civilian vessel, Han said flatly. They threatened to enslave people. Admiral Kwan is making sure that every Vraxil in the galaxy hears about what happens when you do that. The battle lasted 18 minutes. When it was over, 22 Vraxil warships were destroyed or disabled. Only one ship remained intact. The original flagship that had attacked the Baekdu. Admiral Kwan's voice came over the channel again, this time speaking directly to the Vraxil warlord. The Vraxil military station hung in space like a metal city. It was huge, easily 5 times larger than any human ship in the fleet. Dozens of construction berths lined its exterior, several holding partially built warships. Storage bays jutted out from the main structure. Weapons platforms dotted its surface like thorns on a deadly plant. Captain Han Tai-sung stared at it from the bridge of the Baekdu. His damaged cargo ship had stopped at a safe distance, but he could still see everything clearly on his sensors. That's not just a station, Choi Da-eun said quietly. That's their main shipyard for this entire sector. She was right. The structure was massive. It could build dozens of ships simultaneously. It could supply entire fleets. Destroying it would cripple Vraxil military operations in this region for years. Admiral Kwan knew it was here, Park Ji-woo said. He must have. That's why he didn't retreat when the Vraxil reinforcements arrived. He was never planning to retreat, Han nodded slowly. He was planning this from the moment he received my distress signal. Maybe before. This was not just a rescue mission. This was a military operation. On the communication channel, Admiral Kwan's voice rang out clearly. It was being broadcast on every frequency in every language. He wanted everyone to hear this. Attention, Vraxil Station. This is Admiral Kwan Jae-hyuk of the Human Colonial Defense Force. You are in violation of the Frontier Treaty. This station exists within the neutral zone between Vraxil and human space. More importantly, you have been using this station to launch attacks on human civilian vessels. A Vraxil voice responded, trying to sound authoritative but failing. This station is neutral. We have done nothing wrong. We are protected by galactic law. Galactic law is very clear, Quan replied. Military installations in the neutral zone are illegal. Attacking civilian vessels is an act of war. You have committed both crimes. You have 2 standard hours to evacuate all personnel from the station. Anyone remaining after that time will be considered a hostile combatant. There was silence for a moment. Then the Vraxil voice came back, this time uncertain. You cannot destroy this station. It is worth billions. The other species will condemn you. Perhaps, Quan said. But they will also think twice before attacking human ships. You have 1 hour and 59 minutes. The channel went silent. On the Baekdu's bridge, Yun Quan looked horrified. He's really going to destroy it? That entire station? He just said he would, Han replied, but the cost. The resources. That station probably took decades to build. Yes, Han agreed. And destroying it will send a message that lasts just as long. That's the point. Han understood what Admiral Quan was doing. It was harsh. It was brutal. But it was also necessary. Humanity was new to this region of space. They were seen as weak, as easy targets. The Vraxil had proven that by attacking his cargo ship. If humanity did not respond with overwhelming force, more attacks would follow. More ships would be raided. More colonies would be hit. People would die. Sometimes mercy was not kind. Sometimes being gentle today meant more violence tomorrow. Captain, I'm detecting movement from the station, Jiwoo reported. Escape pods are launching. Hundreds of them. On the display, small craft began emerging from the Vraxil station. They were evacuating. They were taking Admiral Quan's warning seriously. Good. That meant fewer deaths. Quan wanted to destroy the station, not massacre its crew. There was a difference. The 2 hours passed slowly. The human fleet maintained position around the station. Weapons armed but not firing. More escape pods continued to launch. Some headed toward the remaining Vraxil flagship. Others scattered in different directions, heading for whatever safe harbor they could find. The Baekdu's crew watched in silence. There was nothing to say. They were witnessing history. This would be talked about for generations. When the time limit expired, Admiral Quan's voice came over the channels again. Final warning. All Vraxil personnel, you have 60 seconds to evacuate. After that, we will open fire. A few more escape pods launched in a panic. Then no more came. Time's up, Quan said quietly. The human fleet opened fire as one. Hundreds of missiles streaked toward the station. Energy beams cut through space. The station's defensive weapons tried to respond, but they were designed to fight off raids, not a full fleet assault. The first missiles impacted the construction berths, destroying the partially built warships. Secondary explosions tore through the structure. Energy beams cut deep into the station's core, targeting power generators and fuel storage. Within minutes, the massive station began breaking apart. Entire sections detached and tumbled through space. Internal explosions created chain reactions that ripped through deck after deck. It was methodical, efficient, brutal. They're not just destroying it, Choi observed. They're making sure it can never be rebuilt. They're targeting the construction equipment, the manufacturing plants, everything. She was right. This was not just an attack. It was complete elimination. When the human fleet was done, there would not be enough left to salvage. The station's reactor went critical. A brilliant flash of light erupted from its center, briefly outshining the nearby star. When the light faded, only debris remained. Twisted metal and shattered dreams floating in the void. Admiral Quan opened a channel to the Vraxil flagship, where Warlord Thexmal still watched in horror. Warlord, I hope you were recording that. I want you to show this to your leaders. I want you to show it to your warriors. I want every Vraxil in the galaxy to see what happens when you attack humanity. Thexmal's voice came back broken and defeated. We understand. We will never attack your people again. No, Quan said. You will not. But understanding is not enough. You will carry a message for me. What message? Tell your people this. Humanity did not seek conflict. We came to the stars to explore, to trade, to build new homes. We wanted peace. But you mistook our desire for peace as weakness. You saw our merchants and thought them prey. You saw our colonies and thought them victims. Quan paused, letting his words sink in. You were wrong. Humanity has fought more wars among ourselves than you can imagine. We have destroyed entire cities. We have burned continents. We have created weapons that can crack planets. We stopped doing those things not because we could not, but because we chose not to, because we learned that peace is more valuable than victory." Another pause. "But when you attack us, when you threaten our people, you force us to remember what we are. You awaken something we tried to leave behind, and when humanity goes to war, we do not do it halfway. We do not do it gently. We do it with total commitment and absolute ruthlessness." The channel was silent. Every ship in the human fleet was listening. Every Vraxil in the escape pods was listening. And somewhere, Han knew, intelligence services from a dozen different species were listening too. This message was not just for the Vraxil, it was for everyone. "So here is my message, Warlord Thexmol," Admiral Quan continued. "Tell the Vraxil Empire that human space is off limits. Tell them that any attack on our ships or colonies will be answered with this same level of force. Tell them that we will find their bases, their stations, their shipyards, and we will destroy them all." "We understand," Thexmol said weakly. "I do not think you do," Quan replied. "So let me be clearer. We tracked you here. We know where your home system is. We have mapped your supply routes. We know the location of every major Vraxil military installation within 50 light years." There was shocked silence at this revelation. "We have been watching you," Quan said. "While you raided our ships, we were learning about you. While you attacked our colonies, we were mapping your empire. You thought we were weak. We were patient. There is a difference." "What do you want?" Thexmol asked. "I want you to go home," Quan said. "I want you to tell your leaders everything you saw here. I want them to know that if there is one more attack on human civilians, just one more, we will not stop with stations and shipyards. We will come for your homeworld. We will stand in orbit above your capital, and we will give them the same choice I gave you today. Evacuate or die." "You would not dare," Thexmol said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Test me," Quan said coldly. "Please give me a reason. I am tired of playing defense. I am tired of responding to attacks. I want to take the fight to you. All I need is one more excuse." No response came. The Vraxil flagship simply turned and began moving away, its engines damaged but functional. The human fleet did not stop it. They let it go, carrying its message of defeat and terror. As the Vraxil ship disappeared into the distance, Admiral Quan opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, excellent work. Boarding teams, secure the captured vessels and begin intelligence gathering. Medical teams, tend to the wounded. All commanders, report your status." One by one, the human ships reported in. Casualties were light. Damage was minimal. It had been a complete victory. Admiral Quan's voice addressed the Bekdu specifically. "Captain Han, your bravery today gave us the opportunity to strike a major blow against piracy in this region. You and your crew are to be commended." Han keyed his communication panel. "Thank you, Admiral. Though I suspect you would have found this station regardless of what happened to my ship." There was a pause, then Quan chuckled. "Perhaps. But your ship gave us the perfect reason to act. Sometimes in war you need more than ability. You need justification." 3 months had passed since the battle. Captain Han Tae-sung stood on the bridge of the Baekdu, now fully repaired and upgraded. The human military had insisted on installing even better weapons and shields. They told him it was a thank you for his service. He suspected it was, so they had more armed ships in the frontier. The trade routes had changed. Where once cargo ships traveled alone or in small groups, now they moved with confidence. Pirate attacks had dropped to almost nothing. The Vraxil had spread the word as promised. Human ships were to be avoided at all costs. "Captain, we're approaching the station," Park Ji-woo announced from his console. Through the view screen, Han could see the trading post growing larger. It was a neutral station, operated by the Dalari, species who served as intermediaries between different civilizations. It was one of the few places where humans and Vraxil might cross paths. "Take us in slowly," Han ordered. "Let's not make anyone nervous." The Baekdu docked without incident. Han led a small team down to the station's main trading level to sell their cargo and pick up new contracts. Choi Da-eun walked beside him, constantly checking a datapad with cargo manifests. Yoon Kwan followed, wide-eyed as always at the variety of alien species moving through the station. As they walked through the crowded marketplace, Han noticed something. Aliens were staring at them. Not with hostility, but with something else. Respect, fear, curiosity. A Delari merchant approached them, his multiple arms gesturing enthusiastically. "Captain Han, I heard about your encounter with the Vraxil. Very brave. Very brave indeed. Please come look at my goods. Special prices for human heroes." "I'm not a hero," Han said uncomfortably. "I just survived." But survival against the Vraxil? That alone is heroic." The merchant lowered his voice. "Between us, many species are glad someone finally taught those pirates a lesson. They have raided everyone. But we are weak, alone. Humanity showed strength. United strength." Han made some polite excuses and moved on. But similar scenes repeated throughout the station. Everyone wanted to talk to them. Everyone wanted to hear the story. Some wanted to do business, seeing humans as powerful allies. Others simply wanted to express gratitude. It was exhausting. They were finishing their business when an alarm rang through the station. A voice came over the speakers in multiple languages. "Attention, Vraxil vessel detected approaching the station. All ships are advised to remain docked until the situation is resolved." The marketplace fell silent. Then nervous chatter began spreading through the crowd. The Vraxil had not been seen in this sector since the battle. Their presence now caused immediate fear. Han exchanged glances with Choi. "We should get back to the ship." They made their way to the docking bay, where they found a crowd gathered around one of the viewport windows. Han pushed through to see what they were looking at. A single Vraxil ship hung in space near the station. It was small, unarmed, flying a neutral flag. A diplomatic vessel. "That's brave of them," Choi observed. "Coming here after what happened." A Delari station official approached Han. "Captain, the Vraxil ship is requesting permission to dock. They say they have a message for humanity. Would you be willing to receive them? You are the ranking human on the station." Han wanted to refuse. He wanted nothing to do with the Vraxil, but he also understood that someone needed to hear whatever they had to say. "I'll meet with them," he said. "In the neutral meeting room. Tell them to come unarmed." An hour later, Han sat across a table from a Vraxil he recognized. Warlord Thexmal, the same alien who had attacked his ship. But Thexmal looked different now. He was thinner, his bearing defeated rather than proud. He wore simple clothes rather than military armor. "Captain Han," Thexmal began, his translator rendering his words in perfect human speech. "I am no longer a warlord. I have been stripped of rank and exiled by my people." "I heard," Han said neutrally. "Admiral Kwan's intelligence network kept all human ships informed of Vraxil politics. I have come to deliver a message from the Vraxil High Council. It is a formal message, but I wish to speak to you personally first." "Why?" Thexmal was quiet for a moment. "Because I need to understand. We scanned your ship. We believed you were helpless. We thought humans were weak. How did we not see the truth?" Han leaned back in his chair. "You saw what we wanted you to see. We're not the strongest species, we're not the fastest or the smartest, but we're survivors. We've had to be. Our whole history is war, fighting each other, fighting nature, fighting to survive in a universe that doesn't care if we live or die." "But your ship was a cargo vessel," Thexmal protested. "Why arm it so heavily?" "Because we learn from mistakes," Han said. "The first human ships that came to this region were unarmed. They trusted that the galaxy was civilized. They were wrong. So we adapted. Now every human ship can defend itself. Our merchants are veterans. Our traders are soldiers. Because we have to be." Thexmal seemed to think about this. "My people pride themselves on being warriors. We conquer. We dominate. But we lost to you. How?" Han considered his answer carefully. "There's a difference between being a warrior by nature and being a warrior by necessity. You fight because it's what you do. We fight because if we don't, we die. That makes us more desperate, more willing to do whatever it takes to survive. And more dangerous," Thexmal added quietly. "Yes," Han agreed. "More dangerous." Thexmal reached into his pouch and pulled out a small data crystal. "The formal message from my people. The High Council has declared human space forbidden. Any Vraxil who attacks a human vessel or colony will be executed. We have withdrawn all military operations from this entire sector. Han took the crystal. That's wise. Is it enough? Thexmal asked. Will humanity leave us alone now? That's not my decision, Han said. But I can tell you this. Humans don't seek conflict. We came to the stars to build something better than what we left behind. We want trade and peace and a future for our children. But we will defend ourselves. Absolutely, and without mercy. Thexmal stood to leave. I will carry your words back to my people. Perhaps in time humans and Vraxil can have peace. Perhaps, Han said, though he doubted it. Some wounds took generations to heal. After Thexmal left, Han returned to the Bekdu. His crew was waiting in the common room, eager for news. What did he want? Choi asked. To apologize, I think, and to deliver an official message that the Vraxil are staying away from human space. Good, Yoon said with feeling. I'm happy never to see another Vraxil warship. You might not have that luxury, Han said. We live on the frontier, danger is always going to be out here. Then we stay ready, Jiwoo said firmly. The young officer had changed since the battle. He was more confident now, more certain. Han nodded approvingly. Yes, we stay ready. Weeks later, Han received a message from Admiral Kwan. It was brief but meaningful. The captured Vraxil ships had provided extensive intelligence about pirate operations in the region. Human forces had used that information to strike several more hidden bases. The frontier was becoming safer, but the message also contained a warning. Other species were watching humanity with new interest. Some saw potential allies, others saw new threats. The balance of power in the sector was shifting. Han shared the message with his crew over dinner. They discussed what it meant for the future. Do you think we'll have to fight again? Yoon asked. Probably, Han said honestly. But maybe not for a while. We've bought some time. Maybe enough time for peaceful relationships to form. And if they don't? Choi asked. Han smiled grimly. Then we remind everyone why it's a bad idea to attack humans. The conversation turned to lighter topics. Stories were shared. Jokes were told. The crew was bonding, becoming closer after surviving combat together. This was good. They would need that bond for whatever came next. Later, alone in his cabin, Han looked at the photo he kept on his desk. It showed his old military crew from years ago. Good people, most of them dead now, lost in battles during the colony wars. He had left that life behind, or tried to, but it had found him anyway. Violence had found him, and he had responded the only way he knew how, with violence of his own. Was that justice? Was it necessary? Han didn't know. Philosophy was above his pay grade. He just knew that his crew was alive, his ship was intact, and the frontier was a little safer than it had been. That would have to be enough. Across the galaxy, in military academies and strategy rooms, analysts were already studying the Battle of the Frontier, as they were calling it. It became a case study in asymmetric warfare, how a weaker force could defeat a stronger one through preparation, deception, and overwhelming response. The recordings of Admiral Kwan's speech were played in diplomatic chambers. The destruction of the Vraxil station was analyzed frame by frame. Every species drew their own conclusions. Some saw humanity as a powerful new ally worth cultivating. Others saw a dangerous species that responded to threats with disproportionate force. Still others saw an opportunity to test human resolve, to see if the response was truly as overwhelming as claimed. Time would tell which interpretation was correct. But for now, in the frontier territories, on cargo ships and colony worlds, humans rested a little easier. The message had been sent. The price of attacking humanity had been demonstrated. Whether that message would last a decade or a century, no one could say. Humanity's history suggested that eventually,